こんにちは、ストライドラボのセイラです。今回はスペシャルゲストをお呼びしております。ゲートハップンズの創業者であり CEO、資格で言うとカイロプラクティックドクターコートニーをお呼びしております。お願いします。
Thank you.
Thank you. ストライドラボでも扱っておりますゲートハップンズのコートニーをお呼びしておりまして、足について徹底的に解説していただこうかなと思うんですけれども、今回のテーマは外反母趾バニュー外反母趾について徹底的に解説していただこうかなと思っております。本当に本日はよろしくお願いいたします。
Yes, my name is Dr. Courtney Conley, and I am the founder and CEO of Gait Happens. And we have an online educational company whose goal is to educate the globe on how important it is to pay attention to your foot health.
テーマで先ほど挙げた外反母趾についてお話ししていただきたいんですけれども、外反母趾ってそもそもどういう状況のことを外反母趾と定義しておりますか？
When we look at the foot, the widest part of our feet should be our toes. And when you look at some people's feet, you will often see a bump along the inside of the big toe or on the outside of the little toe. And these bunions start to form when there is an instability in the foot, typically in a rotational plane, and or they are wearing footwear that is too narrow for their feet.
ストライドラボに実際来るお客様でも外反母趾っていう方すごく多くて、実際に悩みを抱えている方がすごく多いわけなんですけれども、ただその外反母趾だから実際体に何が起こっているかっていうのを理解している方ってなかなか多くないと思うんですよね。なので今回はちょっとそこについて外反母趾であることで体に対してどういった影響があるのかっていうのを解説していただきたいなと思っております。
The treatment of bunions is very important. First, when you start to have change in the structure of the foot, it can lead to things like impaired balance, for example. So that will also affect our gait and can increase our risk of falls. The other thing is when the foot is squeezed at the forefoot and you start to have these two bumps on the side of the foot, they can become very painful because the joint can actually get inflamed and swollen. So when you have things like footwear that's very restrictive here, it can increase those symptoms in the foot. I think one of the most important things to realize also is that, especially with this big toe, it has to be in proper alignment. It has to be straight, and it also has to be very stable so that when we go to push off when we're walking, we have a strong, stable foot on which to do so. If I try pushing off of a foot that has a bunion, it creates an instability at all parts or in the mid part of the foot. The other issue that we need to be aware of is that when there are bunions, especially at this big toe, because there's an instability here, you'll have transfer pain into other parts of the foot. So because I don't have a wide, stable forefoot, a bunion can also often be accompanied by hammer toes or neuromas or other different diagnoses in the foot which can all cause pain. So I think it's important to understand that a bunion is a muscular imbalance in the foot. And I think if we look at treating these from a muscular perspective, getting the foot stronger with the appropriate footwear, we can really start to make changes into the structure of the foot. The majority of treatments that you will hear that are out there for the treatment of bunions involve surgeries. And when you start compromising the function of the foot with surgeries or with pins or hardware, you really start to take away the strength and mobility of the foot. So we want to do everything we can conservatively to treat these diagnoses.
今そのバランスが悪くなるとか、その他の指のところに影響があるってあったんですけど、例えばお客様である悩みとしてタコができるとか、そういったのも外反母趾って影響してたりもします。
So when you're walking, when you have a bunion, you aren't able to go through the foot. So instead of walking and going through the big toe, people will spin around it. So their foot starts to do this. So they can often get a pinch callus along the inside of the big toe, or if this joint keeps getting loaded aberrantly, you'll get more inflammation and more pain in that joint. Yeah, so you can have a pinch callus here, And if you also have a bunion, instead of being able to push through the big toe, you'll end up pushing, you can push off the second and third toes, and then you can get a callus underneath these toes as well, which means you're not using the foot appropriately. This is why, for me, a non-negotiable with footwear is the wide toe box, because the toes have to have the ability to stay in alignment. When they're squished in a shoe, it will drop 2 and 3 down, and then you can have more pressure underneath the ball of the foot.
なるほど。意外とそんなつながりも。はい。今そのアライメントだったりの話していただいたんですけど、例えばその膝痛いとか腰痛いとかさまざまな他の不調もつながってる可能性もある。
Yes, when you start to have instability at the foot, it will affect everything up the kinetic chain. So for example, if I'm walking and I don't have good control of my foot and I spin, I can put more load through the inside of the knee and through the low back. So foot dysfunction will lead up into symptoms in the rest of the kinetic chain. I think the other thing too, when you see the bunions on both sides, so if they have them on the right and the left sides, it affects the way the pelvis also functions. So when you see both bunions, you have to also think, well, if I get my foot stronger, it's also going to have an effect at the pelvis. So it's very common to see people that have bilateral bunions with low back pain.
Wow, very, very important. 内反小趾とかも実際にお客様内反小趾の方も多いんですけど、そこも関係してたりしますか？
So the tailor's bunion is on the outside of the foot. These can be very painful. So people will get calluses underneath the fifth toe here, and the toe will look like it's curling under. I've had many patients that have been scheduled for surgery for this, and they cut part of this bone. Allowing the toe to be able to splay, so appropriate footwear, and then exercises to be able to splay the toe can help this significantly and then reduce those surgeries.
今いろいろと外反母趾によることでこういった体に対して影響があるよっていうのをお伝えいただいて、実際に外反母趾に悩んでるスタッフをお呼びしておりまして、ちょっとそのスタッフの歩き、歩行動作をこのマシンに乗って歩きながら見ていきたいなと。で、そこに対して実際体が今こうなっててこうなってるよねっていうのをぜひ解説していただきたいなと思います。
So when you're looking at a foot and the toe is in alignment, when I go to push off, I have integrity of the middle section of the foot. When I don't have that and this bunion starts to form, when I go to push off, you can see what happens at that midfoot. I start to create more instability at that foot. And so then when I'm walking with a foot that is unstable in that rotational plane. So we would want to work on not only getting the foot strong and stable, right? So I have better control of the arch, also at the hips. So that's why this whole thing is connected. This is pretty cool too. At push off, here, okay? The forefoot should be in this plane and the rear foot should be twisted out. So in other words, when I go to push off here, when I push, see how my heel is, I'm not pushing off like this. Yeah, so that's what that bump you see, the navicular. So when I go to push off, my forefoot should be here, but my heel should be in, so I have stable. When with that bunion there, she's here, she pushes off here. You see? That's why it'll be important for us to straighten this toe and then also work on strength of the rear foot. Yeah, you can see in stance phase, there's not a lot of strength to the foot. When the foot's on the ground, it's almost like the toes aren't even helping her because the foot's like this.
この今の彼女の歩き方いろいろ出てきたと思うんですけど、特徴がそれによって起こる他のなんていうんですか、代償動作みたいなのって何が考えられますか？
When I go to rotate to my right, that's what pulls my foot out of pronation. So if she's staying like this and we're not rotating, then I can have knee pain, back pain. You can even see people with shoulder pain because they're not rotating their spines. But that, you can see here, I'm not getting any rotation through the upper spine. So it's this whole chain. The other thing that you'll see with bunions is this muscle right here. Very tight and like big. You see how big her medial gastroc is there? Because they push off that inside of the toe. You see how the arm swing is almost staying just in front of her body. Okay? When you walk, you should see almost a crease from the shoulder to the hip, because when I walk, I should be rotating my body. But a lot of people, when they have these bunions, they'll walk like this, so I'm not actually swinging my arms. It's almost like people want to walk like soldiers, you know? It's like, relax. I always tell them, relax the sternum, and then loosey-goosey.
ではじゃあここから実際今歩いていただいてこの外反母趾による動作見ていただいたんですけれども、実際この道具だったり運動を通してこの外反母趾を改善させたいなっていうところでいくつかエクササイズだったりご紹介お願いいたします。
So you can see with her feet, when this bunion, what starts to happen, you see how it's going under the second toe? So that's what we were talking about. When you have this here, it's not only a problem at this joint, but then it becomes a problem at these joints because he tucks under there, and that's when you get that callus, right? You can feel it right there, right underneath that second toe. So what we want to work on, because these are still flexible, I mean these toes, we want to work on that position. When the toe is straight, there's a tripod to the foot. But again, when this starts to happen, you can see that instability there. So the first thing we want to do, because this foot's going to be sensitive, is roll the bottom of the foot. So you're just going to take the ball and you can roll right underneath the bottom of the foot there. Okay, and then it's probably going to be sensitive along the outside of the foot. So I want you to, you're going to face the camera, and I want you to put that ball underneath the foot, and you're going to kind of turn your toes in. Yep, heel down. And we're going to get your hips involved. So you're going to bend your knees, and then you're going to rotate your hips. And that'll mobilize the bottom of the foot. So it's important that we pay attention to the fascia and the tissue in the foot. So you're going to take the ball right on the inside of the calf.
はあ、これでふくらはぎの。
And you're going to roll the inside. Okay. And then you can take your foot and point and flex it. Can you lift up all your toes? And then you're going to spread them and reach them forward.
開かない。
右だけちょっと動くぐらい。
開かない。ノースプレッ。
So that's what we want to work on, is watch my toe here. When I lift and I press down, see how it's going? See that muscle there? So this can be very hard to do with people with bunions because this muscle is so weak. Well, when the foot is like this, right? Abductor hallucis is lengthened. So it's harder for him to contract. In adductor, so it's like a backwards 7 here, this one is constricted, and this one's weaker. So what we want to work on is strengthening that muscle there. So because people have a difficult time, we'll take this band and let the band pull the toe in, and then I'm going to have you lift both of your toes, big toes. Lift all your toes. And then when you come to bring, yes, let the band pull them in on the way down. Yep. So lift up and then let the band, yes, good. And down. Up, down. Yes, that's good. You see this right there? Yes. That's good. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes. And then she can do one at a time, right? So if she wanted to anchor this one down, and then just do this side. Keep him down and just do that one. That's very good and very important because now her brain is working on that muscle to help strengthen the arch. That's the cool thing about the foot, because it was very difficult to do it first, but you just start doing it a couple times and then
once you get it.
Yeah. So then once you get better at that, then you can take the band and then put it around all the toes here.
でも動くようになった。
So then lift up all your toes here, and then try to get tension in the band. Spread, spread, spread. Yes, that's good. Try to get these guys. Watch here. Up. Spread all of them. Yes.
指も動く。
Yeah. It's her brain. The brain is like, let me extend so we get through the hands too. In this band, we might want to go with easier. Okay, but that would be something to work on. Is because this toe, relax your foot. See how this guy's like, okay? Right? So you'd want to reach it forward and press down. So then you can strengthen specifically number 2, because that muscle is going to start to do this, and you have that plantar plate there. You don't want that to happen. So you can specifically train the second digit. It's very important because people with bunions, if that bunion continues to go under the second toe, they'll rupture the plantar plate. And then you have a foot that is deformed. But this is, when you see a foot like this, it's very exciting to me because this can be helped. And then once she gets better at it, she'll be able to do that and then just do the toe. So then you put your toe spacers on because you want to help with that toe splay. And then what we want to work on now is this part of the foot because she was doing both sides. Okay, so go ahead and stand up. So you would just tie this. You want some pretty good resistance here. Okay? And then what I want you to do is you're going to spread your feet, get some resistance in the band. You're going to try to keep the big toe on the ground, and then you're going to drive your heels into the band. Yes, that's really good. And watch what happens here. Yes. Watch mine here. I can be like this or that. So when I train, when I'm training in this position, a lot of posterior tibialis. And so when I can engage the arch and I train posterior tib, it'll slow down the rate at which she spins through the foot. So I would do that at the foot first, and then you can take that band up around the knees and then sidestep, because then you'll get the hip. The point is that between taking care of the fascia, using the ball, then you can work on toe strength with the strengtheners. You can work on the big toe, we can isolate the second toe, we can get the little toe. Then you drive it home with the spacers, and then we can work on more global musculature with the band. And then you have no more bunions. Yes, you see when you take that band and you let it go in, how everything increases? It's this external rotation drive, not the nail bed. You wanna, because the key, remember when it push off, I want the ball of the big toe down, but I want the rear foot to be inverted. So I'm basically using this drill so that when her ball of her big toe's down, she can do this. And this under here. Keep that down. Drive the...
なかなかダウンしてなかったから。
Because the bunion is an instability in the transverse plane, so it's this rotation they can't control. I think it's important too with bunions that people don't strengthen flexor hallucis longus. So the strength comes from here. If I were to just press the nail bed, see what happens? So it's not here, it's this. That's why this guy is so important there. Okay, so another drill we can do for that is to, can I see that band real quick? Yeah, you could pretty much, I want to go home and shoot a video on the whole foot health kit with the bunion, so this is a great idea. Is balance. So you can take your foot and you turn your big toe in. I'm going to anchor my big toe down, I'm going to twist my foot, and then I'm going to drop the heel down. Yeah, see how straight your big toe is right now? Yes. Then you can balance and move all around and.
はい、では今回は豪華ゲストなゲートハップンズのコートニーをお呼びして外反母趾についてしっかりと説明していただいた後にこういったエクササイズをやった方がいいですよっていうのをお伝えしていただきました。ありがとうございました。 実際こう外反母趾で悩まれている方すごく多いと思うんですけれども、改善の余地があるということですよね。
Yeah, I think I want people to be encouraged that there's so much more that can be done to the foot, especially when we're dealing with bunions other than foot orthoses and surgery. The less severe the bunions, so mild to moderate bunions, we have definitely seen the foot structure start to change. And this is important because there's also inflammation and swelling in that joint that will go down. And I think when we're, even in more severe cases, if the toe is flexible and we can wear things like toe spacers and get in the appropriate footwear, then you can definitely change the symptoms. The pain will decrease. And I think when you have any type of change in the foot, it's important that you get the foot to function better. And if there's no pain, regardless of if you still see that bunion, that is not surgical. So wearing the appropriate footwear, strengthening the foot, working on toe splay will really have a positive benefit on these symptoms.
ありがとうございます。今回は外反母趾っていうテーマでお伝えさせていただきましたが、もうご自身を支える足元の健康をぜひ皆さんも見直していただけるきっかけになればと思います。ストライドラボでもゲートハップンズ扱いございますので、ぜひご来店お待ちしております。本当に本日はありがとうございました。Thank you!